This is a named tweet. It's called, "Now You're Playing with Power." To the proponents of capital punishment, also known as the death penalty. This is something called revenge administration. Number 1, should victims of the criminals be allowed to choose the execution format? Should they be allowed to choose the execution format? Number 2, which format option should be open? And number 3, what is the value of human life? These are some pretty big questions. Once again, open questions. Leave a comment below with your thoughts and observations on these. But let me take a closer look at this tweet here and see if we can find any more framing or information. My friend Jesse says, "Good questions." Thank you, Jesse. This was back in April 2019. So, I don't support the death penalty. And it's it's a tough question because, some people have a view of morals, a moral view that an eye for an eye is the way to go. If you have somebody that intentionally murders somebody else, then the person that intentionally murdered should be murdered so that you have a sense of equilibrium and a balance. I've heard that framing. For me, I don't think the state should be murdering our own citizens in this manner. Now, I know, again, context counts. We have a lot of different scenarios where we just murder people. We drop 25 to 35 to 40,000 drone bombs on the Middle East and other places in the world. We do precision strikes on people in wartime, like General Soleimani, as we did during World War III, which was only 2 weeks ago. World War III was 2 weeks ago, and we had done those things. And they are morally questionable. It's like, who is benefiting? What is the cost? Is this moral? There are some great questions. And some people say, no, killing is just immoral. And in many ways, they are correct. But it is a complex question. It's not simple. But you're playing with power when you have the state pushing capital punishment and the death penalty. Because so many times, this is the obvious frame for this, the obvious point that many people make, that the justice system is imperfect. Some people are not actually guilty of the crimes they've been accused of, and through revenge administration, taking an eye for an eye, they are killed, through lethal injection or otherwise, and they didn't actually do anything wrong. Sometimes prisoners sit on death row or in prison for 35 or 40 years before we find out, well, I didn't actually do it. Forensic evidence came out, and it turns out that they are innocent. But we have to stay away from guilty until proven innocent in this country. We should stick to innocent until proven guilty. And of course, you see a lot of the inverse of that when you see the outrage culture, a modern religion, where people look at their first impression, they see the optics of something, and they pounce immediately. They're triggered to respond. They just jump in there, regardless of how much information they have, what context they're seeing, and so forth. We all make this mistake. I'm not judging. I am very biased. This is a very biased channel, and a very biased outlook. I'm not judging. But I am agnostic to the modern religion known as outrage culture for this reason. That people can say, well, people in the jury say, I can spot a liar, I can spot a killer from 100 miles away, and the judge says, yeah, we're getting you out of the jury pool. We're getting you out of the jury pool. I think you're a little bit too in your own head there, buddy. So the first question here about revenge administration is, should victims of the criminals be allowed to choose the execution format? So this kind of puts a question into the hands of the victims. Say, for example, You have a husband and wife. The husband's out walking one day and he gets murdered by somebody, say with a baseball bat. A man gets murdered with a baseball bat. It's very sad. So his wife says, she's prompted with this question, well, I want him to face justice. He killed my husband. It wasn't manslaughter. It was intentional. It was malevolent. And I'd like him to be beaten with a baseball bat as penance for what he has done. Now, is that fair? Is that fair? I mean, it is kind of an eye for an eye. Oh, you blew up my husband with a bomb. Can I blow you up? It really gets into that question of revenge. So many of our systems, actually, our moral systems, the modern religion of social justice, for instance, is about revenge. It's about relitigating the past, going way back and relitigating the past. So it's a good question. There isn't a solid answer for it, but again, it's all subjective. We can come up with our own conclusions. Should victims of the criminals be allowed to choose the execution format? Should it be more entertaining or less entertaining? Right? What do you want to see? And of course, which format options, question 2, which format options should be open? You know, do we have to do it cleanly? Does it have to be a little shot and the shot happens and then the person goes and that's it? Or is it more beneficial for the greater good if somebody is shot out of the cannon into the Empire State Building, shattering the windows and their corpse falling to the ground? Is that a better example of why someone wouldn't want to commit one of those atrocities in the first place? Is it dissuasive enough? So what format options should be open? You know, if you're willing to kill people for one reason or another, may it be because of a murder or because of something that wasn't necessarily so violent, are there other places? Now again, I'm not an expert on the law. Seek subject matter experts. Talk to a lawyer. Consult a lawyer when we're talking about law. And certainly consult Google and DuckDuckGo. But which format option should be open? It just opens our mind to this question. If we're going to start killing people as a law, what should the parameters be of that box? And ultimately, the third question in Now You're Playing with Power is, what is the value of a human life? This is the question we have to wrestle with. Like, do we need to eliminate that person from our society? What is their value? What is their actual intrinsic value as a human, living, breathing, conscious human being? I know it costs a lot of money, fiat currency, resources to maintain this person's continued existence on this earth in a cell with cable TV and PlayStation 4. But the question becomes, like, do you value that human life? Do you value human life enough to let this person live out their days in solitude, losing this social element, losing the freedoms, the human rights that we all enjoy? Or in many cases, as George Carlin would say, the temporary privileges of these countries that we all enjoy, until the law changes. So they're good questions. They get you to think. If you have any thoughts, again, comment below, and we'll go from there.